Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you all for coming out here this morning. My name is Mike Gibbons. I'm the Executive Director for the Charleston Regional Alliance for the Arts, and I'm really happy that you guys can join us at the Arts Matter Mayoral Summit. And I'm particularly glad that the 6 of you could come out here to share your views on the arts in Charleston. So just a couple of quick things before we get started here. First off, I would like to give a big thank you to the members of the Alliance Board who are here. Thank you very much for all of your support and all you do for the arts. Thank you very much to Woolfe Street Playhouse for hosting us here and for all of the fantastic work that went into it. The quick turnaround from Spoleto to getting this all set and ready to go. Thank you guys. You guys are great. It's fantastic. And a big thank you to two of our partners, to Charleston Magazine, who has helped us through this, and as well to ifyouweremayor.com. And if you have not gone to ifyouweremayor.com and kind of put your thoughts on what you think that the next mayor in Charleston needs to be talking about and needs to have some good ideas, please go visit the site. It's going to be a fantastic and lively discussion up through the election and beyond, right? Okay, well, we're about to get started here, and just let me give you a quick idea of how this panel is going to work. We have our 6 candidates here, obviously. We have 2/3 of our panelists here. They're going to be filling in. I believe we're missing a little bit of a banner here, too. So, there we go. So, introduce you to our 2 panelists here. Keely, right here with Woolfe Street Playhouse, Village Rep. And Josh Silverman with Jericho Advisors. Both very involved in the arts, fantastic art supporters, as you all are too. Our panelists today are going to be asking a series of questions about why arts matter in Charleston, because we all know they really do matter. They're a big part of what Charleston is and what defines it. The way we're going to work is the panelists will ask some questions. Each of our mayoral candidates will have 1 minute to answer. I will be the timekeeper and let you know when your time's coming up. We will start alphabetically, but we will rotate the order just so that everybody gets a chance to start off there. At the end of our set Q&A time, we have some audience Q&A. People have been filling out some forms from the out there, as well as contributing to ifyouweremayor.com, and so we'll be asking some from you folks to get everybody's thoughts, because arts matter. So, again, thank you for coming out here, and let's get started with the questions. We will start with Keely.
Yes, sir. All right. Question number 1. Mayor Joe Riley has a 4-decade history of supporting the arts in our community. However, with new administration comes new opportunities for supporting the arts. How will your models for the arts differ from Mayor Riley's?
And do we have 1 minute? Is that the idea?
That's right.
That's the idea, okay.
And I'll let you know when you have 10 seconds.
Great, thank you very much. Well, thank you all for being here. It makes a great statement from the arts community to have all of us up here really focusing on the arts. So thank you. That's an enormous gesture in my mind. Mayor Riley, I think, reminded us every day that the arts is so central to the life of our city. From little tiny children all the way through the oldest citizens. In big ways like Spoleto, and in small ways like kids on the side of the road doing art projects that they're selling for a nickel. So I think, you know, he is someone who has kept it in front of the community and helped it, and I will follow that. Thank you.
Art is the lifeblood of the city of Charleston. What I may do a bit differently than the current mayor is to bring more artists into the fold. I do think that there are a few gaps that need to be looked at, especially as it relates to the opportunities for local artists, local writers, local singers. So I would want to broaden the opportunities to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to be a part of this world-class art city.
Thank you. I'm Leon Stavrinakis. Appreciate being here and follow up with Mike said and thank everyone responsible for putting this on and our hosts. I think we'd all agree that the mayor's been a good supporter of the arts, but like anything else in life, you can always do more, and it would be my goal to be the strongest supporter of the arts that a mayor of Charleston could possibly be. I'm sure I'll have time throughout, I'll have time to talk about the ways in which I've become supportive of the arts over time and how it's touched my family, particularly my children. But I think the city needs to do more in terms of providing accessibility, in terms of locations for, you know, the broader scope of art, more diverse and again, broader scope of bringing in artists to be able to participate in Charleston. That includes locations and funding and other items that the city can work more on.
Good morning, John Tecklenburg. Thank you for having us here this morning. It's an avocation for me, but I am a musician, I'm an artist, and I really feel I understand the challenges sometimes of an artist in making a living, and that applies to community arts organizations as well. And Mayor Riley has done a great job supporting the arts, particularly through our big festivals. But I really want to focus on our community arts organizations, some of the smaller ones that need support. They need spaces to perform in. And we need to look at partnerships with the schools. You know, there are some good performance venues at Sanders Clyde, at West Ashley High School, that we could incorporate with our local arts community and move our arts experience, not just during major festivals, but throughout the city, West Ashley, Daniel Island, James Island, and throughout the year. So it's a year-long cultural thing. As an artist myself, I'll be a fierce advocate for the cultural arts in Charleston. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Paul Tinkler, and thank you all for coming here today. It was the arts that brought Libby and me to Charleston back in 1978. We came at the invitation of my sister to a Spoleto event. Actually, we heard Janacek's Sinfionetta at the Gilliard. And we said, this is really cool. And so we came to Charleston, South Carolina, and we settled here in part because of the arts. The question is, what would we do differently from Mayor Riley? I would say that I would continue in the spirit of Mayor Riley, certainly, because he's responsible in large part for this renaissance. But like some of the other candidates, I would also try to expand it. For example, we could use more Piccolo Spoleto events in West Ashley, where we reside. And I think greater community outreach would be the main way that I would stress the arts.
Good morning. My name is Maurice Washington. Different from Mayor Riley? Are you kidding me? Think about this. He's a true visionary. A gentleman who converted a bridge into a public space and created art. If you reflect on the Cooper River Bridge, the diamond cables, and you reflect over west, looking east, looking north, looking south, capturing the beauty of the Low Country, it took a visionary to do that. You expand upon his great work. I would look to Mojo, underserved
10 seconds.
art that can truly capture some special moments for the citizens of Charleston and visitors alike.
Thank you very much. Josh, if you can go with your first question, and we will start with you, Mr. Washington. We'll start at this end and then go to you, Ms. Deerin.
Great. Good morning, everyone. As a proud member of the Avondale neighborhood, my biggest concerns are close to home, and creative placemaking is an approach we and others have used to reimagine public and open spaces to showcase art and artists from the community, sometimes with and sometimes without permission. As mayor, what kinds of initiatives do you propose that would allow creative placemaking to be a major component of the Charleston landscape?
Thank you for your question. Like the city's well-preserved architecture, if done right, creating or creative placemaking can, in fact, improve the ambience of a city. I go back to the Cooper River Bridge, and that's art. It really, really is. Now journey with me to Riverbank Park as a public art potential site, complementing the development of the MUSC Research Center, the SCR Research Center, as opposed to more commercial development, preserving the green space, complementing the Ashley River, the wetlands, the marsh. Now travel with me West Ashley along Savannah Highway, where 9 brave firemen protecting life and property, dedicating the fire truck 4D in their memory and creating that as a public arts location. Imagine the beauty and the enhancement of Savannah Highway for West Ashley.
When I was on city council, we formed the Old Charlestown District Task Force. And one of the discussions that we had is how could we incorporate public art into the gateways into Charleston, creative space making. And that is something that I'm very interested in. It, of course, has not quite yet occurred, although we planted the medians there by raising public and private funds, for example. We see numerous examples of creative space making. The recent park renovation in Ansonboro is a good example, but we can really improve that, particularly into our gateways west of the Ashland.
I've been a businessman all my life, other than a 5-year period that I worked for the city of Charleston. I was director of economic development for the city in the 90s. And during that period, we grew the farmers market. And one special thing that we did, we had a contest for a menorah in Marion Square that's now put up every year during Hanukkah. And what was special about it, we had a contest of artists, and I don't know if you've ever noticed that menorah, but it's not only a beautiful symbol, spiritual symbol, but it's a beautiful work of art as well. And that's just one example of what we can do in other places in our city, in parks, in libraries, in schools, to have and promote public art. And Paul's work is absolutely spot on. Coming down the Rutledge Avenue exit into the Neck area, or coming to West Ashley, great opportunities for public art.
Thank you. Avondale's a great example of how business and creativity can mix and create a really special environment for both residential and commercial life. And there are a lot of vacant spaces, particularly in our suburbs, where the city could incentivize with property owners and developers and create opportunities for kind of spontaneous creative placemaking that would serve well to revitalize a lot of the areas of particularly West Ashley, James Island, that need some help in those commercial corridors. And it adds something special to the public realm when those things are done, and particularly when they're spontaneous, I think. And that's a good thing. I mean, West Ashley is in need of an improved public realm. It's right-of-ways, throughways, commercial areas. They have great neighborhoods.
10 seconds.
It's something that would really, really benefit the area. And there's room for it in other parts of Charleston as well. And I'll give a shout out to Enough Pie and the great work they do online to keep track of the creative placemaking going on in certain parts of Charleston.
As chairman of the Recreation Committee and Parks, I think we have great opportunities now. We don't have to wait until after the election to do creative placemaking art in our parks. One example is what may occur in Hampton Park when we put in the new cafe if it's approved, as well as put in an event space. And one of the things that we're talking about is also doing some outdoor art in the park. We also have some great examples already of placemaking art. For instance, Sanders Clyde, where we have the mural that was done by Jonathan Green. We have gates all over this city that has been done by Philip Simmons. So I'd like to see more of that done, not just on housing or in buildings, but in many of the parks that the city owns.
No, to me, the wonderful thing about creative placemaking is, and art in general, is the ability to bring people together and make connections. And I think one of the most exciting projects that's happened recently is the Gimme Change event out West Ashley. I don't know if any of you all did. It was a chart outdoors initiative. And, you know, it's an alley, and people started, you know, just going out there and connecting with each other and painting on the walls and, you know, connections and creativity, and all of a sudden it becomes a very vibrant place where people just go and connect. I think that's the really beautiful thing, and I think the city needs to have an approach that we encourage that kind of creative placemaking that, in my view, is best when it's, you know, just takes a little creative spark. Carol and Ellen, a little creative spark to get it going, and I think that's the best stuff comes from the community. So we need to do more. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our third question, Keely, are you going to field the third one?
I'm going to take the third question. This is actually Jim's question.
And the order of this one, Councilman Gregorie, we're going to go with you, and then to you, and then we'll come back to this and go this way on it, okay?
When it comes to arts programs in our schools, there always seems to be more need than we have the resources to meet. One of the biggest issues facing the Charleston County School District, and therefore the arts in our public schools, is the funding formula that is set in Columbia. How will you work with the school district and the Charleston delegation to fix the funding formula in order to ensure better support for arts and arts funding in our public schools?
Well, one thing that I think that we need to do, and we've been emphasizing STEM, I think we need to change that to STEAM, so that art is an integral component of what we move forward in our schools. And one of the things that I'm working avidly on is with Burke as we move forward to make sure that art is in fact infused in that curriculum. Of course, I would be an advocate for more dollars going toward the arts. And anything that I can do in that regard from the city level to make sure that our state and our county provide additional fundings in general. And of course, making sure that the superintendent of schools pay closer attention to how we spend the money.
10 seconds.
So that we can assure that art gets equal funding.
You know, the sustainable funding for arts education in public schools, which I've been in public schools the last 20 years, very intimately in the schools, and funding is a huge problem. And there are lots of ways to fund art education, but we can't look the other way at the importance of fixing the funding formula. And, you know, the action or the inaction, I should say, that's happening in our state legislature is just not moving the ball down the field on the things that are really important. And you know, if you look at this last legislative session, there were two important things that got passed. And they got passed because it was people. It's
10
people
seconds.
that make things really happen in Columbia. And it was the domestic violence bill and the body camera, which had huge numbers of people. So we've got to mobilize people because we cannot just depend on the South Carolina legislature to take care of it.
I'm not sure I'm willing to accept that the school district is underfunded. 103 millage rate. We're spending at an all-time high per pupil. I think what we need to look more carefully at is how we issue TIF districts throughout the city of Charleston. TIF districts take hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars away from city schools. But The city has TIFs running down East Bay, down Calhoun, Lockwood, Hagan Avenue, Lime Street, Meeting Street, East Bay Street. In each of those TIF districts, take valuable resources away from our public schools.
10 seconds.
As mayor, I would rethink how we encourage economic development in the city and put our children and their education ahead of big business, having an advantage over small business and our children and our residents.
As I recall the question, it's what would we do about the equitable funding of our school system in the state?
The arts.
Okay. Well, this is primarily, as Ginny has suggested, a state level issue. And Libby and I have a daughter, her name is Mary Tinkler, and she got a degree in art history, and she went on to work at the Corcoran Museum in DC for a while before coming back to Charleston. And then we got her elected to the legislature. We helped her anyway. And so hopefully she will be influential in the legislature for creating better funding and more equitable funding for the arts.
Well, first, I think we have to recognize that arts education is critical in our community, and I don't think our state leaders fully realize that. Luckily, there are many people in our local community that understand how important arts education is in our schools, and there's some great examples like Gene Furstcott's Yo Art program in the schools, and Charlie Fox does such a great job raising funds with his marathon to support those programs. So as mayor, I would seek to build on those partnerships that we're already engaged in, and particularly with space needs that our community organizations have. Work out a deal with city schools to provide some performance venues in return for programs in the schools that the community organizations are ready, willing, and able to give. So it's a matter of partnerships. I don't think we can rely fully on state funding for arts. They don't really get it, that it should be a core curriculum of arts of education in our schools. Thank you.
Thanks. I serve as co-chair of the Arts Caucus in the South Carolina House, and to say we've had our challenges getting state government as a whole to embrace the importance of arts in education excellence would be an understatement. There was a period of time in 2010, 2011 when the governor was trying to eliminate the South Carolina Arts Commission completely out of the state budget, and I led the way to go to the floor of the House and convince our body that we had to maintain the South Carolina Arts Commission, the great work that they do, seeding grants and programs all over South Carolina. My kids go to Ash River Creative Arts Elementary, and it's a wonderful arts-based public elementary school, and it has
10 seconds.
so improved their lives and sparked their minds and their creativity, and it's just been an incredible thing to watch. The funding formulas definitely are broken. I've served on a couple of study committees. The problem is, of course, we need leadership from the top of the governor's office to fix this, and we haven't gotten it yet. The legislature, there are going to be winners and losers if you start changing formulas and moving money around, and so you have to have that leadership from the top in order to move that ball forward, and it's certainly past time for that to happen.
Thank you very much. Keely, this next question is going to come from you, and there is a method to the madness of the order we're going in, so we're going to start with you, but we're going to then go to you and then back to the end of there. Keely?
Okay, well, we're all very aware of the iconic, large, established arts organizations here in the city. But in order to maintain a community of vibrant art, we need to continually bring new arts producers and new, younger consumers into the fold. What will you do as mayor to ensure that the next generation of artists and arts consumers are welcome and encouraged as part of the larger art scene in Charleston? In short, how will you help me find the next generation of both artists and patrons who will engage in the arts?
Well, I would continue to encourage art education in the public school. Our daughter and son also attended Ashley River Creative Arts School. That program there, I mean, it taught Mary how to play the violin, for example. I think that those things should be encouraged and continued.
I think the answer is found in school, K through 12, and after school art activity programs in partnership with the City of Charleston, the County of Charleston, foundations and private business sectors, colleges and universities, such as the College of Charleston primarily. Not only are we looking to build the next generation, but we want to build quality. And quality represents a lot of different things. But we have a wonderful opportunity to support our inter-school arts programs, again, at the earliest age, starting at the K level, growing them through the 12th grade, and really, really engage in the community in a broad way with after-school activities in the arts.
You know, I am someone who, you know, talk, you know, is kind of cheap. I think we need to try and pilot stuff. And one of the things about my life is I see opportunities and really seize them. And I think we have a great opportunity for the city to connect. For example, we know we need summer experiences for our kids, young kids, middle school kids, high school kids, young college kids, to connect them and create an internship program so that they can begin to work here in internships, to learn how to produce, you know, how to be in the business, how to, you know, make art work for professionals. And so I think those kinds of specific programs that the city is in a position to partner, maybe provide some seed funding. But I think having real programs instead of kind of just keep talking about, hey, we need to encourage this to happen. Let's do some stuff.
I think growing the next generation of art producers and consumers is all of our responsibilities. Not just infusing it into our curriculum, but also the various artists, companies should also have a very strong art education component. Components such as what we do at the Gibbons Gallery and some of the other places around the city. So I think that when we talk about the next generation, we have to deal with it holistically. Yes, we need STEAM instead of STEM, but we also need to make sure that the art community embraces this need and also provide internships and opportunities for people in the community to embrace art and love art and become a part of art.
Thanks for the question. You know, I think if you talk about cultivating a new generation, obviously you need it available and the standard of excellence at every step of the way. So we start, like we were talking about a minute ago, in our K through 12, our public schools. It would help, I think, if the College of Charleston had a fine arts program. I think that would help. They certainly have some great arts programs over there, but I think the fine arts program would really help. And then after that, of course, when people move into their professional life, you know, I think is where the city can really kick in and to help provide affordable space to work, you know, with the development community, to have places throughout the city where artists can, you know, affordably do their work. And also, you know, kind of the incubator idea we use in other parts of the city. You know, arts is also a business. It creates jobs. It generates revenue for our city and our state. And we should view it through that prism as well. There are a lot of different things that we can do, both educationally and through development and through economic incentives to make it something that people want to pursue, and Charleston the place for them to pursue it.
We have an amazing creative culture here in Charleston already. It's part of our heritage. and we just need to continue to nurture and grow it. The next generation is already here, and starting early on, we talked about arts education, and the College of Charleston has a great fine arts program. I would suggest that the college take it to a graduate level, because they've discussed other graduate programs that can help business in our community. The arts business, if you will, in Charleston equates to over $1.5 billion of economic impact, and is considered by some to be the 5th largest employer in our community. We need to nurture the creative arts. I'm a performer occasionally in the Sound of Charleston. We can have other performances and series that employ artists that accentuate who Charleston is in our culture. We can have more live music, more displays of visual arts in our libraries and schools. It's a comprehensive thing, and supporting the arts is to everyone's benefit.
Thank you very much. Josh, we are going to, Representative Stavrinakis, we will start with you and go this way for this round. Josh?
Great. So as rents rise quickly across the city, the affordability issue becomes a real obstacle for small businesses, and in particular, it affects artists who are getting kind of pushed out to the margins where it's less expensive to live and work and perform. So what will you do to ensure the city is reinvesting in the arts and making it affordable to exist and prosper within the community rather than on the edges of the community?
Well, like I said a minute ago, I think it's important for the city to work with the business community as we grow and make sure that those opportunities are available. There are many parts to most development plans, and one of those parts the city needs to make a priority to have a plan for creating those kinds of availability, those kinds of places, and availability in terms of the location and the cost. And it's something that the city can certainly do and does do in other avenues, and they just need to make it a priority as we continue to grow, both in our suburbs and in the core of downtown. You know, the arts are a big part of our culture here. I mean, they've always been a big part of our
10
culture.
seconds.
And so it's something that should be a priority and important priority for the city as they continue to plan out the future of the city.
It's you, Mr. Tecklenburg.
Affordability for artists, wow. It was an avocation for me, but I understand the challenge of making a living as an artist. My youngest son is an artist as well. He's a painter. And in the last 15 years, I've been a commercial realtor, and I've tried to help a lot of folks, community organizations, find space that they can afford. What we have downtown is gentrification, not only in housing, but also in commercial market rates for rental commercial property. This is a beautiful facility, but rents have gone up to where most community arts organizations can't afford to stay on the peninsula anymore. There are some great examples around the country. One is in Alexandria, where there's a common space for performance and artist studios. Also, there are private developers that we could engage in the city who develop housing and studio space together, work-live space for artists. There's a nonprofit called Arts Space. They've done this in 30 major cities in the country. I've talked to them already. I think it would be a great idea to have an affordable option. And it may not be on the peninsula or the neck. West Ashley would be a great place to do this kind of development.
Yeah, I was going to say that from my perspective, when we talk about the edges of the city, many people who live downtown consider West Ashley the edge of the city. We sort of consider it the center of the city, those of us who live in West Ashley. Having said that, obviously we need to do more and more to continue our affordable housing policies here in Charleston so that artists and everybody, police officers, teachers, and others, can live downtown near where they work, or in West Ashley near where they work. But as I was saying, I think art needs to be expanded to the edges, so I don't think that's such a bad thing.
10 seconds.
Wow, very tough issue. Affordability is very, very important. It's a core service of municipal government. And it's going to require partnership. Partnership with the private sector, partnership with the federal government, state government to create diverse income housing opportunities in Peninsula Charleston. We're at a point now where, right or wrong, fair or not, a larger percentage of African Americans are living in public housing than homes that they own. This is not a race issue. It's really an income issue. It impacts whites, blacks, alike. And we have to get our arms around this.
10 seconds.
Inclusionary housing may offer an opportunity for improvement, as they do in the state of California. It's not legal yet here in the state of South Carolina, but working with legislators, maybe we can make it happen for Charleston. Thank you.
So the hallmark of an administration, if I'm fortunate enough to become mayor, will be one that is action-oriented, that's big thinking, that's results-oriented. And here's an idea I want to throw out there, because I'm a believer that if we don't protect the diversity in our city, and a huge part of that is having creative people living in the city, then we lose, and we lose big time across all sectors. Here's an idea, but is to solve a couple of things at one time. I just recently put out a big, bold transportation plan on my website. I hope you'll check it out. But part of it is moving the visitor center up north, which we know we want to do. So here's an idea. I don't know that it makes sense, but this gets you in my mind, is to fund that, sell the very valuable property where the visitor center is now, take some of the money to build out there, and dedicate some of the space to affordable housing for artists and studios, but housing too. We need creative people living in our city. So that's the kind of creative thinking I think the city needs to take.
Affordability is a crisis, not just in the artist community, but across the board. And I do think that we can probably, through our ordinances, try to find some way to incentivize attention to the artist community through development. I mean, in addition, we, West Ashley and some other parts of the city, we have malls that are abandoned. I think that we should get very creative with those malls and perhaps create artist incubators, artist communities. As we move forward with affordability in general, we must also have the kind of housing necessary, not just for artists, but for teachers, for police officers, so that we can truly create a community that has all the elements which make a community healthy.
Our sixth panel question that we're going to have here, and we will be starting with you, Mr. Tecklenburg, and then going this way, coming back around. And at that point, then, we are going to move to a handful of other questions, including some audience Q&A. First off, I'd like to, before we proceed, I'd like to applaud all of you for your inner stopwatches. Y'all are all right at 1 minute, so good job. So, Josh.
Great. As we see other communities in Charleston County and throughout the Low Country grow, we see their arts communities growing. How will you work with the esteemed mayors in your neighboring municipalities to ensure cooperative growth and prosperity for the arts across municipal lines, and therefore equitable access for all community members to the arts?
Well, I think the greatest example is your organization, the Alliance for the Arts, because it's more of a regional group that ties community arts organizations together. Of course, the city has a wonderful Office of Cultural Affairs that was one of the first in the state, and has been a great promoter of arts, not just in the city, but in the region. But as our region has grown and other organizations have have been created outside of the Central Business District. The Alliance is a terrific organization to do that. The Office of Cultural Affairs is a member of the Alliance and should do everything to promote arts within our region, not just within the city limits. Y'all have a great model, and I would support it. Thank you.
Yeah, you know, the arts really, in that regard, aren't much different than any other challenging issue the mayor will face, and it's so important that Charleston have a mayor who's a proven leader, who has proven relationships with other local governments, with state leaders. We don't, you know, really solve many problems by ourselves. Most of these problems, whether it's transportation, schools, or any of these problems, are expensive and, you know, touch across community lines. And so, you know, having established relationships, I served on county council 8 years, having been in the legislature, being able to have proven relationships that I can go to when Charleston needs things from other governments is very important. And I think having a hands-on proven mayor that has those relationships in hand and doesn't need to build them over time, they're already there, is really important for the future of our city.
I think intergovernmental relationships is very, very important for the arts, and perhaps we can go through the COG, the Council of Governments. But I also think more importantly is intra-governmental coordination, where we actually work as one Charleston, one city, a city that works for everyone, so that we're not talking West Ashley, Charleston, Daniel Island. We need to get together with more of an initiatives to make sure that art is spread throughout the city of Charleston and not just concentrated downtown specifically. So you will see under a Gregorie administration more of a one Charleston approach,
10 seconds.
an approach that would make sure that not just art, but all of what we do is a part of the entire city of Charleston, which includes all the islands as well as downtown.
You know, I have started talking with Mayor Summey and Mayor Page about this topic in terms of working regionally together to really do as good of a job as we can to make 1 + 1 = 3, because we all know that that needs to happen. And one idea that we talked about is, you know, I, as you could tell probably so far, you know, talk is so cheap. You know, words big. What I would suggest is, and what I would recommend, and I do believe that both Mayor Summey and Mayor Page would do this, is for us to meet quarterly with the head of our Cultural Affairs Department, quarterly, with the Arts Alliance would be a great way to do that, to talk specifically every quarter, what are we doing to work together to make sure that the arts is supported, flourishing, sparked, all of that, and really have action plans to take action. Because, you know, we can just sit around talking about it, but we need to take some action, and there's no better way, sort of like here, what you all have done here. There's no better way than getting us together. And if we do that on a quarterly basis, I think we will see that we will actually not just talk about working together as regions, but we'll actually do it.
I think the development of a policy platform that builds partnerships across sectors, across mission, and levels of government would be a good place to start. This entire region, not just the city of Charleston, benefits tremendously from the arts. The state, our nation, I don't think it would be a hard sell. Through smart collaboration and a sincere focus, I think we can make it happen. And I certainly would be at the forefront in trying to lead the way.
Well, as John said, this regional alliance has got the right idea. And the mayor of Charleston is the de facto mayor of the region, of the Low Country. And I've already been over to visit with Mayor Woolsey of James Island to declare the peace between Charleston and James Island. This is the way that I work. And so I do anticipate, as mayor, I would be in a position to cooperate with the mayors and county officials and state officials to make sure that not only the arts, but all issues of mutual concern across our region are addressed in a collaborative manner.
Thank you very much, and you have all now successfully completed the gauntlet of the panel Q&A, so we will move on to the next round here. As we're getting ready for the Q&A, we do have a couple of questions. We just want to do a show of hands from the 6 of you here. Show of hands, how many of you attended a Spoleto event this year? How many of you attended a non-Spoleto event within the past year in Charleston? And how many of you attended a non-Spoleto event at a public school in Charleston over the past year? Perfect attendance, how about that? And now we've got some questions and topics that have come from you, the audience here, who filled out some cards, as well as ifyouweremayor.com. And again, after today, continue the discussion at ifyouweremayor.com. It's very important. There's key aspects of Charleston moving forward that we really want to get the discussion going there. Lily Hunt, the incomparable Lily Hunt here, who has done so much to make all of this happen. Lily is going to deliver the questions, and I just want to also give a quick thank you to Ali Diaz and Miller Hyman, our 2 interns who have been fantastic and just been doing great work. So we will get to as many of these questions as we can to still have the 2-minute closing remarks and stay on track here. Are we ready, Lily? All right, Keely will start, and Ms. Deerin, we'll start with you and go straight down the line on these.
Okay, outside of Spoleto and Piccolo, what ideas do you have to bolster the arts in our town to create more jobs and living wages?
Can you repeat that again? I think
Yes.
the mic was kind of sketchy.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah. There we go.
Okay. Outside of Spoleto and Piccolo, what ideas do you have to bolster the arts in our town to create more jobs and living wages?
Well, for one thing, I think that a good example, I think, is our recent airport expansion. I mean, the enormous dollars that went into that. Was there a commitment of dollars for local Charleston art? No. How could that be? So that is the kind of thing that I think, paying attention. Charleston is such a catbird seat now. People want to be here. We have the upper hand. We can say to developers, okay, you can do this, but we need you to do this. And yeah, part of this is affordable housing, but part of it should always be thinking about the arts in Charleston and jobs. And so I think that is
10 seconds.
something that the mayor can do is pay attention to what are, again, it's like, what are the opportunities, seize them, and really work with it with the eye toward jobs for people in the arts, because if they don't have jobs, they're going to leave, or they're going to go do something else that isn't going to enrich our community.
Could you repeat the question?
Absolutely. Okay. Outside of Spoleto and Piccolo, what ideas do you have to bolster the arts in our community and to create more jobs and living wages?
I can talk about what we've done as a city council member. We have already raised the entry-level salary from minimum wage to $10.10 an hour. And I will attempt to do that throughout the city of Charleston. What can we do to have more economic opportunities? I think that the Moja Festival is a prime opportunity for us to go just as international as the Piccolo Spoleto. I think that once the African American Museum comes online and we couple that with the Moja Festival, we have an opportunity to create thousands of jobs and economic economic opportunities throughout the city of Charleston. So one of the things that you will see me bringing to the table is trying to make our Mosier Festival more international and a strong connection between the International African American Museum.
Thanks. Yeah, I think we've talked about some of these things, and I think certainly, again, infrastructure and affordability are important, in terms of facilities, making sure they're available and affordable to people. Even looking at the idea of a multidisciplinary arts facility in Charleston, which is something I think that could serve the arts community well. When I was on county council, we had a place in our budget where we took outside agency requests, and a lot of the requests were from smaller arts-related groups. It was really hard, to fund them all because we had a very limited pool of resources available for that. But for the city, it's a totally different ball game, and it's got to be a priority for the city. And so, looking at some of these smaller entities, which are equally as important in the creativity and economic impact that they bring, is great for our city and great for our state, and the city needs to make them a priority.
To bring more jobs and living wages, I would focus on performances and venues that highlight our own culture. And it's hard in 60 seconds to get a big idea out, but again, I play in the Sound of Charleston. Bill Slitt and Maida Lipkin started it. It's a wonderful performance. Mostly visitors come to it. I recommend it highly for even us Charlestonians. It tells the story of Charleston in music. And we have a rich heritage here. I'd cover the little jazz segment, and the Jenkins Orphanage, produced some of the greatest jazz musicians that this country has ever seen. And so this one series of Sound of Charleston plays all throughout the year to big crowds. They're mostly visitors, but it employs those musicians and performers. Why can't we use that as an example? And my idea is to have a recurring performance of Porgy and Bess. It says Charleston. It involves music. It involves musicians, singers. You could augment it with visual arts as well. It could be a wonderful statement of who we are, our culture and heritage, and be an ongoing performance venue and attraction for visitors and locals alike. That's just one example to push venues, live music, and cultural arts in Charleston. Thank you.
Well, I think if a community is prosperous economically, it will support the arts, and the arts will support, in turn, the prosperous community. And so I would continue efforts to increase economic activity here in Charleston, and I believe it will support the arts. For example, one idea that I have put forward is that we need to emulate what has been done in Chattanooga. They have created a public utility where they have the fastest internet speed now in the Western Hemisphere. And what has it done to Chattanooga? It has helped business, and it has also helped the art community.
10 seconds.
My question would be, what is it that education cannot improve? I think if we invest in education, we invest in quality of life. We invest in quality of neighborhoods, livability of cities. I think if we position this city for a different top 10 most livable, top 10 tourist attraction, what about a top 10 city that is best for education in America? Industry will flock to this particular region. Education, in my mind, in my judgment, is the key
10 seconds.
for economic development, neighborhood development, and quality of life.
All right, Josh, you have the next question, and for this one, Mr. Washington, we'll start this way and just head straight down the line.
This one was from the If You Were Mayor site. What kind of incentives would you like to see for developers to encourage them to keep rent affordable for arts organizations?
Well, I'll go back to a statement I made earlier. I don't believe TIF districts are the answer. I believe that developers have a responsibility to ensure that a percentage of every development in this city is affordable to the working class. Every development should be negotiated on a percentage of, if you expect city funds, you have to give something in order to take something. And I certainly would encourage a percentage of every development, percentage of which be set aside for diverse income housing
10 seconds.
and housing affordability.
Well, I think this is similar to a question that was asked earlier, and I think we should continue to expand our efforts at providing affordable housing, as Maurice has suggested. And I think we can look at the idea also of putting a portion of development dedicated to arts venues as well.
I believe the business is there. We have arts organizations looking for space. We need to coordinate all available spaces that are available. But as I mentioned, there's a good example in Alexandria. They took an old torpedo factory and formed a kind of comprehensive arts venue, studio space. And I think with the support of the city, that kind of development would thrive here in Charleston. And I also mentioned the group called Art Space that works on work-live space for artists, for studios. You'd have residential units along with studio space in the same building. It's an economic model that works. They've done it all over the country. There's no reason we can't do it here. Sure, in a similar fashion to workforce housing that the city currently does, we might incentivize the developer with a little more density than they might otherwise get in the right place. I think that's fine. And so through zoning, incentives for density, and some direct participation, maybe on the comprehensive center for performances, the city might throw in, be a partner and throw the land in. So through the real estate and the zoning, the city can provide those incentives. But I believe the business is there if we find the right developer and focus on doing that. Thank you.
For me, the best approach would be, you set your list of priorities. And for me, certainly the arts, affordability in terms of workspace, housing, the creative placemaking we talked about, all those things would be priorities. And then the incentive is dependent on what the developer wants, right? You want to find out what they want, what they need, and use that to get what's good for the city before you let the project go forward. The city does a lot of that now. They do it in a lot of different areas, and I just think it's about making these things that we've talked about in this forum that are central to the arts and the health of the arts going forward as some of those priorities, and making sure that the incentives match us getting those priorities met.
This is one time that, not one time, but I agree with John. I do think that the torpedo factory in Old Town Alexander is definitely a great example of how you can pull various artists together. And I go back to something I said initially. We have some malls, West Ashley, that are not working. I think that this would be a good example for us to try to negotiate with those owners in partnership with developers in the city to try to do something like the torpedo factory like an artist incubator, a place that artists can come,
10 seconds.
work, and they can also sell their wares. So I do think that we also need to have incentives for developers, like we have a 15% affordable housing linkage to certain housing development. We could have an artist linkage to certain developments as well. And I think that that would go far to making sure that we have the kinds of opportunities out there for artists.
You know, the space is complicated. I mean, you look at a space like this, which is fantastic. I mean, I think the mezzanine up here is such a perfect example of how we can work together. I mean, Spoleto had a need, you had they could do it, it's everlasting now, not just some temporary thing. The city came in, pulled out all the stops to make it, you know, it is all about, in my mind, seeing a challenge, seeing an opportunity, and working with others, you know, solve it or seize it. And it just depends, and I think arts organization by arts organization or event by event, the city needs to step in and assist and then get out of the way to make things happen, not be too over, we know how to do it, but be in an assist position to really come up with solutions that work for everybody. And I think that's the way to do that, is not some big program, not necessarily some big building, but to just look at them one by one, the opportunities, and make